Hey, very good morning guys, and welcome to a new daily market outlook. Starting off with the dollar index. So starting off with the dollar index, we can clearly see that we've been ranging since the start of the conflict within the Middle East. No real, let's say, interesting price action over here on the dollar index, and this is kind of reflected in, of course, the major dollar pairs as well. So looking at it from a daily perspective, nothing really interesting, but moving down lower in towards the 4-hour time frame, we can, I guess, clearly see that we are still bullish, of course, with this being your swing low and this over here currently being your swing high. Yesterday we pointed out that we had this sell before the buy, which could act as your area of demand due to the fact that it took out this area of supply. However, no significant reaction from it. We spiked through, and we even spiked in towards that lower area of demand, which was not even fresh anymore, but we did see a significant reaction back up. So for the day ahead, what I'm waiting for is to see if the dollar can regain this structural high over here, fractal structural high, and provide us with a change of character, because at the moment, this is your fractal high, this is your fractal low. We need to break above that, push back down in towards demand, and then we'll see a push up higher on the dollar index. Let's say we break below this low over here of, what is it, 105,811 approximately. Then I do expect the dollar index to push down lower in towards this extreme area of demand, from where we then in turn should see a reaction. Quickly tapping down lower in towards the 15. Yeah, 15 not really looking that interesting. We can clearly see over here, and let me just point it out real quick for you guys. We have this 15-minute area of demand, clear liquidation right above it, and that's why we're currently moving bullish. But yeah, of course, this can just be of short-term bullishness because the overall structure is very clearly in towards the downside, and this is just the pullback, of course. Potentially one push up higher in towards this extreme area of supply. Liquidity is being built up above these highs, kind of like this descending corrective price action. So let's see, maybe one more push up in towards supply, and then, for example, a sell-off in towards 105.62 or 6 or 105.6, yeah. So keep an eye for that. Let's say we just start tanking down in towards the lows, then we will be keeping our eye out on the 4-hour for this extreme area of demand. Yeah, once this low over here breaks. And for bullish price action, remember guys, we need to break this high. So that is the dollar index. Moving on in towards euro dollar. And euro dollar is kind of a reflection overall of the dollar index. We can still see, okay, supply over here holding. Now we got that internal fractal structure change over here, moved in towards the downside, pulled back in towards some supply zone in here, from there pushed back down again. So now what happened, we saw another break of fractal structure on this low, meaning that this is now your high and this is now your low fractal structure wise. If this high were to go, then I definitely expect higher prices from euro dollar, potentially moving even higher back up in towards, let's say, 107.7 or even 108. For now, on the lower time frame, we'll have to keep our focus a little bit more, because on this daily time frame, again, you can see it's very clearly just ranging. So it's very hard to say from a daily time frame perspective what the market is going to be doing next. But overall, also from a daily internal, we do, however, see that we are bullish over here. So it's kind of like very conflicting overall. The daily swing structure, bearish. And then the daily fractal structure, also bearish, but the daily internal structure is bullish. So meaning over here. So yeah, conflicting timeframes, conflicting structure. So let's look and see if the 4-hour can maybe provide us with better guidance. So overall, from a 4-hour perspective, pretty much what I drew in yesterday as well is that we of course have the range trading tool. So drawing that in over here, we can clearly see again within this 75% mark that is acting as our resistance. Now looking at the 4-hour time frame over here, the internal structure over here is in towards the highs. So high break, high break, high break, again high break, then what happens, low break over here, meaning that this is your internal high, this is your internal low, and at the moment this high is still holding, and we can clearly see supply gets met, pushing towards the downside, currently inside supply being met, pushing towards the downside. Now I'm focusing on potential further downside because we are trading within this range, and we are of course in the upper side of the range as I just showed you guys. So what do I need to see for further downside from euro dollar? Well, I want to see this low over here break. So that is your fractal structure low, because this would mean that the internal structure would then be aligned with your fractal structure. So then at that point in time, once this low goes, then I'll be looking for a potential pullback, then in towards, let's say, the supply zone, and then a further sell-off. So that is currently the setup that I'm waiting for. At the moment, nothing really interesting. We have some demand inside here where this, let's say, big move in towards the highs came from. But yeah, didn't really achieve anything, so nothing really interesting. Again, this demand zone as well didn't achieve anything. So what you would want to see is either, okay, euro dollar just starts pushing up higher, then we start trading the pullbacks, and we can, let's say, trade up higher in towards that 108 region, or we want the low to go over here, and then we just look for further shorts, and we remain within this range. So that's what I'm looking for in euro dollar. Nothing really interesting. For the rest over here, from a 15-minute time frame perspective, yeah, I mean, we're reacting to this extreme supply zone, pushing towards the downside. For me, the 15-minute is bullish. This being your swing low, this being your swing high. So you would, of course, expect, let's say, a pullback at least further down in towards, let's say, the EQ around over here. Okay, we have this demand zone, liquidity being built up with this low not being taken out by this low. So if we do see one more push down, you could look for potential long from this area of demand if we see then kind of like an internal structure break in towards the highs once again. So that is euro dollar. But if then this low were to go, I would be more in favor of a potential short in line with the overall 4-hour time frame as I just explained. So that's euro dollar. Moving on in towards Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar 4-hour break of structure occurred over here. Overall, the internal structure is now bullish as well. So getting that push in towards the highs, we can clearly see that this is your overall sell before the buy. This is also, if we draw in our premium versus discount tool, very clearly where the overall EQ / 50% mark is. So looking for a pullback to trade on Aussie dollar. Well, that pullback is of course looking interesting because, again, if we have a 4-hour break of structure, what is the first thing that you want to tell yourself is, okay, after a break of structure, I expect a pullback. How can we recognize a pullback? Either you see an internal break of structure or you see a fractal break of structure. So after that pullback, or after that break of structure, excuse me, what you want to see is something like this. And then you can expect that pullback, or of course, kind of like a bigger swing where you get that internal break of structure. So in this particular scenario, what do we have? If we focus and zoom in, we can clearly see that we have a fractal break of structure, meaning that price is potentially ready to move down lower and provide us with that correction in towards the downside. So moving in towards the 15-minute time frame, what I'm now looking at is that we have a clear internal break of structure in towards the highs, boom, boom, break of structure again internally, and then a pullback, ascending corrective nature in towards the highs, and now kind of like already price is starting to dump in towards the downside. So overall, the 15-minute swing structure is the same pretty much as on the 4-hour, swing low over here, swing high over here. So the 15-minute is also ready for a bigger correction in towards the downside, in my opinion. So that kind of aligns with the overall 4-hour bias, 4-hour and 15, both looking good for a further correction. 4-hour fractal change of character in towards the downside is now bearish, and on the 15-minute, the internal structure is now also bearish, meaning that we could be ready for a further correction in towards the downside to these, let's say, lower areas of demand. For example, this 4-hour demand stacked with 15-minute demand. So what I'm looking for at the moment, just to make it a little bit more clear, is again, within this, let's say, internal break of structure, we now have kind of like this uptrend right over here. So what I'm looking for is pretty much this low to go, pullback, and then a further short in towards the downside. You could, of course, already short from here, having an even better entry, but then, of course, you are trading more risky and you have a higher probability of your stop loss getting hit. So that's Aussie dollar. Moving on in towards pound dollar. So I think Aussie dollar is pretty much the most clear pair out of all of them, because again, if we move in towards pound dollar, yeah, I mean, overall, again, a very messy pair. But what we can clearly see is, okay, swing structure, still bullish, right? From this high and this low, this is your swing high, this is your swing low. So overall, you would expect further upside. However, the problem is that the internal structure in turn is bearish again. So this is your swing high and this is your swing low, making a pullback in towards the highs pretty correctively. Again, no real, let's say, bullish and strong bullish intentions from, for example, this area of demand or from that daily area of demand. So yeah, the internal structure now kind of like, again, inside this internal high and this internal low is for now bullish in towards the highs. And this is your protected low, overall order flow. So sell before the buy, again, sell before the buy. This is what's keeping price moving up. And as long as we can respect this low over here, I do expect higher prices from pound dollar. If this low were to go, then I expect further downside, because then the fractal structure will align with the overall internal structure. And because we're ranging, I'm not really focusing too much on the overall swing structure. So that is pound dollar. Real quick, not looking at the 15, looking at the 1 hour. Yeah, this is pretty much the area that you could potentially go long from. That's just the extreme 1 hour demand inside that 4 hour demand zone, which I just pointed out over here. But again, if this low were to go, you're kind of like your internal structure and your fractal structure, it all just goes bearish. So when it's this messy, just kind of focus on the internal structure and the fractal structure. It's maybe getting a little bit complicated, but you just want to focus on this low for now, guys. If that low goes, then yeah, look to trade it in towards that 1 hour demand zone. Look for the pullback, and then, for example, look for that short back further down. So that's pound dollar. Moving on towards NZDUSD. So NZDUSD, again, very similar to Aussie dollar for our break of structure. However, the big difference is that we do not yet have a break of this fractal low. So not looking for shorts from here, despite maybe on the 15-minute price looking good to start pushing down. Well, not really, guys. As we can clearly see, we are, of course, inside this extreme supply zone. But overall, I would say that this is your structure now. So just a pullback in towards this demand zone in line with the overall 15-minute structure, and just, yeah, further push up. So not looking for NZD/USD shorts just yet. Once this low goes over here, then we could look for those shorts. Or, of course, if we push up higher and we break this high over here, then this becomes your fractal low. Then once that low goes, you could look for short down lower, back down in towards 4 hour demand. Going in towards the daily real quick. Again, yeah, daily looks good to push up higher still. Nothing really interesting for the rest, but yeah, just looking for NZD/USD to push up higher and at least regain this high over here. Because if you look on the 4 hour or even the 1 hour, you can clearly see that there's liquidity above these highs. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for on NZD/USD, potential further upside in line with the overall order flow for now. So yeah, just look for further upside. So moving in towards gold. So gold, guys, last of all, looking at this from a 4 hour perspective. Again, moving up higher from this overall range that we have over here. Still expecting higher prices from gold and an all-time high to get hit very, very soon. Moving in towards the 15-minute. You just want to be focusing on the 15-minute structure overall. So if we look at the current price action, what we can clearly see is that this high went. This is the high that I pointed out yesterday as well. This becomes your high because we break this low. So swing high, swing low. What happens? We move in towards this extreme area of supply. Yesterday during New York session, push in and sell off in towards the downside. Now overall, the internal structure moving in towards that supply zone broke over here, this low, pushing towards the downside. Now we're pushing back in towards the supply zone from where we could potentially sell off. But if we do not see a sell off and kind of like a structural change over here and for the downside, then just wait for this high to go. Once that high goes, look for a pullback and then go long again. So that's it for today, guys. A little bit of a complicated market at the moment. So I'm mainly trading Bitcoin and other pairs, sharing signals in the Discord link in the description down below. Wish you all a fantastic day and we will speak very, very soon. Thanks, guys.